Hey, look out. It's Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
There on the screen, if you're watching Facebook Live or YouTube Live or listening to the radio, it is Mark Goodman. He is the founder of 70 times 7. He's got a great story. I'm a little concerned with the people he hangs with, Dan. He hangs with Glenn Pearson.
With Glenn Pearson, I mean,
yeah. What's up with that, Mark?
Oh, I love that guy. I love his teaching, his preaching, his heart, his just his passion for the Lord, and obviously his passion for my favorite subject, forgiveness.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, he's got a great story too about forgiveness.
Yeah, he does.
We talked to him about.
Yeah, he does. I always pick on him. You know, the guy looks like he's 40, right? And I know he's a little older than you and I are, Mark, I think.
I know.
Up there. But, you know, ever since we met Glenn, you wind him up, and he has such a passion for people, especially discipling men. He's just, I don't know, he's so gifted. Love hanging with him, but I love picking on him. But he recommended that we find out more about you. He says you have a great story, and we would love to hear that story. Where do we begin in the Mark Goodman story?
Well, I guess we start off with why my passion for forgiveness, and that comes from my own story. It's just not your normal path to get where we are today with loving the Lord, having a beautiful wife, a beautiful life. Honestly, feel the most blessed guy on earth. But as a teenager, I lived homeless on the streets and beaches of LA, eating out of dumpsters, soup lines, and so forth. But here's the thing is during that period of time for about a year, I've got great memories of it because it was actually a step up. It was safer. It was better than what I had growing up in Detroit. Now, it's not just the Detroit. I'm sorry if you have any of your viewers from Detroit. I know it's kind of like Youngstown, Ohio without the glitter, shall we say. Issues, okay? And I wish I could say it was only because of Detroit. That had its own issues as well. But I grew up in a family that was alcoholic mom and dad, with a dad that was very abusive. When I say abusive, not just emotionally, but with my 3 older brothers, he was physically abusive. And I'm talking about the type where my older brothers with his fist, virtually unconscious. And then the abuse that was going on between the brothers, real bow and arrow fights, how we lived through it. My bedroom door had bumper stickers on it, not for decorations, but to hide the holes in it from different times where a brother would come at me with a knife or a bat or something.
Wow.
But it didn't stop there. My dad sexually abused his own boys.
Wow.
So yes, life on the streets of LA was a step up. It was an improvement. It was great. It was awesome. I ended up hitchhiking back from LA to Detroit with $20 in my pocket. This is the late 70s, with a loaf of bread and a jar of peanut butter. And I made it as far as Cheyenne, Wyoming, where a couple cowboys were nice enough to help me out and pick me up and give me a warm place to stay and a great meal, only to find out that I was about to be sexually abused in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Oh, my. Wow.
And at that time, there's no cell phone. Nobody knew I was on the road. Forget Mark just disappeared. Forget finding the body. Nobody would even know where to look for the body. Now, as a result of all that, as one can imagine, I leave some pretty deep scars behind. And my 3 older brothers didn't fare as well. My oldest brother passed away a couple of years ago, just full of anger, holding on to that backpack of pain, shame, and blame. And I am not going to let this go. Do you know what happened to me? My next oldest brother that went with me is schizophrenic. We got him in a home in St. Petersburg, and he's got imaginary friends, and he doesn't take meds because to live out in left field is safer than remembering the things that my dad was doing to him at age 12. And then my middle brother, the one who led me to the Lord at age 15 and taught me business, the most awesome guy, most awesome salesman in the world, in 86 called me, and while on the phone call, took his own life while on the phone call with me.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And yet, explain to me, Rick, Dan, why is it that I'm so happy? I feel so blessed. I got this beautiful, awesome life. Explain that.
Yeah.
Other than the amazing Lord who has blessed me way more than I deserve, and the power, the freedom found in forgiving.
Mark, just the story. I mean, starting with your dad, your brothers, the guys in Wyoming. I mean, how do you even start to forgive that? How did you get to a place where you were able to do that?
That's a great question. It started off with just understanding, and I love Glenn brought that up. If you're watching this and you have not watched the Glenn Pearson interview with and Faith Talk Live, I suggest that you do. And he brings up a good point that it's a one-way street. The way I like to put it is it's one side of a two-sided transaction, right? If there's a debt, if Rick, you owe me a lot of money, right? And I can die holding on that anger and resentment that you owe me, or I can write that debt off and I am free from it. It has nothing to do with you. It's one side of a two-sided transaction. Reconciliation takes two sides, but forgiveness only takes one side. And look, those guys out in Cheyenne, Wyoming, my dad, let's just be honest with, they didn't deserve to be forgiven. But I do. I do. I deserve it. I deserve to find that freedom found in forgiveness.
Wow. Mark Goodman, what a great story. Do you have the book out now? Are you working on it? I know there's a documentary, feature film, and all that. Is that coming up? What's going on with you with this story? Because it's an amazing story.
Well, thank you. The book is being written right now. It'll be done by the end of the year, published next year, called Forgiving a Good Man. Obviously, a double entendre, making fun of my last name, Goodman. But my dad was a good man, right? Not only in name, but let me tell you something. At age 65, my dad sobered up, came to the Lord. And although he's not with us today, the last 23 years of his life, that same monster that should have gone to jail for the rest of his life turned into one of the most wonderful, loving, godly men you've ever met.
Wow.
If you met him and you heard this story, you'd be saying, no, there's no way. No, I've spent time with, there's no way this man matches that story. And that's the beauty of it. You're never too old. You've never done too much bad to find God's redemption, grace, and forgiveness. So we were reconciled. And so that's a big part of the book, is this forgiveness journey, right? And the turning points and the tension and how to resolve those tensions. We all deal with forgiveness issues, right? We've been harmed, we've been hurt, but also we've harmed and we've hurt, and we're trying to forgive ourselves. And sometimes it's just forgiving God, not in a theological point. Obviously, God doesn't need to be forgiven, but anybody who's lost a young child and angry at God understands what we mean by that. So then we're doing a documentary, and then finally a feature film. If you were to go to forgivingagoodman.movie, that's forgivingagoodman.movie, you'll see a little bit about it. There's screenwriters working on that right now. And then, of course, that'll always be subject to funding. But this is a feature film that we're looking to take to theaters to reach a wider audience, and not just a Christian film for Christian audiences. So although God is in the book and the documentaries, it's a little bit lighter so we can reach a wider audience.
That's good.
Yeah.
Mark Goodman.
And that is something that we definitely need in our society today, is to talk about forgiveness. Definitely.
Amen.
Mark Goodman, what a great story. What's the website, Dan? I forgot. I'm sorry.
There you go. 70x7.org.
That's correct.
We'd love to, Mark, we'd love to get you back on the show, talk about the book when it comes out. Yes, maybe somewhere around December, looking ahead to 2023. I mean, this story getting not only in theaters, documentary, and books in people's hands, it's got to touch their heart and just change them. And of course, give their, we're believing that they would give their lives to the Lord. But wow, what a powerful, powerful story. Is this do your kids obviously know this story? Your grandkids know this story? At what level do they know your story?
You bring up a good point. Most of my life, my corporate life world before founding 70 times 7 in 2017, I wore a mask, right? I mean, I didn't go to college yet. By age 40, I was a CTO of a publicly traded telecom company, right?
Huh.
But I wore that mask. When they start talking about college, that was my cue to go to the bathroom, right? Please be over with. But maybe share a little bit about what happened, but not about all of it. And I went to a small group one time in 2015, a new small group, and the first guy up and shared everything. And I was in such awe. Like, oh my goodness, I've been holding that inside. So I pulled my wife off into the kitchen and said, honey, you better sit down.
Oh boy.
There's stuff inside of me that happened and how I feel and why I react to things. I've never told anybody, including you.
Wow.
Boom. And then I went to that small group and I shared it all. And I haven't stopped sharing since then. And that mask, I love having it off because 1 out of 4 women have been sexually abused, but 1 out of 6 men have. How many of the 6, 12, 18, 24 men have shared it other than me that
Right.
happened
Right.
to? And it's not just that. There's infidelity and there's so many of these really big things, right? And especially in men, when we're holding on that shame, that anger, resentment, it shows up in withdrawal or overcompensation. That's why a lot of the top CEOs have really awful stories, because overcompensation or bounce back and forth in between. But there's freedom. So what we offer is not forgiveness. You don't wake up in the morning and say, I want to forgive that person who did that really bad stuff. It's not intuitive in our flesh to do that.
Right.
But the offering is freedom. Here you go. Would you like to be free from that? And the freedom is found in forgiveness. That's what we offer at 70 times 7.
Love that. 70 times
Yeah.
7. Go to the website and find out more. .org, 70 times 7.org. And Mark, definitely great story. We'd love again to talk to you November, December, and we'll look ahead. Looking forward to that book and the film and the documentary. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk Live.